If the thought of choosing fabrics frightens you, try a light background with a green tree or a dark background with a snow-covered white tree. You can't go wrong. No matter what colors you decide on, make sure that all the fabric is 100% cotton and make sure to press it before cutting. It's okay when you're interviewing fabric not to have it perfect, like these fabrics. But when you get ready to cut, make sure everything's been pressed nicely. You also want to pick fabrics that have contrasting values for the background and for the hands. So you want to have either a light fabric in the background and a darker one for the hands, or a darker fabric for the background and a lighter one for the hands. I wish I would have used a lighter background so these darker green hands would stand out rather than blend in. I chose the hand fabric by looking at this sort of what I call my inspiration fabric, and I picked colors out of this to put into my Advent quilt, not really thinking about different values like lights and darks and how it would stand out. I really liked this printed fabric because it was playful with bright colors. I chose the light blue background and the green hand fabrics and the red for the numbers by matching fabrics in this print. I could have used this as a border, but I chose to make it for my backing fabric. I did the same thing with the gray and white quilt. This was the backing fabric, and from that backing fabric I chose my hand colors and this little brown fabric for the tree trunk. If you decide you want a tree trunk, you'll need a scrap of brown fabric. You also might want to top your tree with a star made from the hands. You'll need an extra 1/4 yard for this. You need to purchase a double-sided fusible for the hands and for the numbers. Choose one that's lightweight as you'll be sewing through this. Ask the store clerks for help in choosing the best fusible for your project, as there's many on the market. Make sure you save the manufacturer's directions, as each brand varies as to how many seconds you press with your iron. Now is the time to start thinking about how you will arrange your hands on the background. This will determine the number of hands that you need to trace, along with which fabric you will adhere the fusible to. You have many combinations available based on the color. Either you can use all one color of hands or multicolored. The size, you can use all one size or many different size hands, or the rows. So one row could be all one color. You could have multicolors in the rows. In the rows, they could all be one size, the hands, or they could be many sizes. For example, all the hands in each row could be the same size and the same color. Another layout to consider is alternating different sized hands in different colors throughout the tree. I usually use between 28 to 30 hands for my tree. I often cut out a few extra hands just in case I change my design down the road. So how do you determine how much fabric you'll need for these hands? Well, this amount is based on 3 things: the size of your hand, how many colors you want to use for your hands, and the number of hands that are in your tree. So in this tree there are 25 hands, but sometimes I put 30 or more hands. So that's something you're going to have to determine before you go to buy fabric. If you don't want to spend a lot of time trying to figure this all out, then I recommend that you buy 7/8 of a yard, because 7/8 of a yard will give you about 30 hands that are at least 5 inches by 8 inches big. And that's an awfully big hand for a child, so you should have more than enough with this amount of fabric. Now, let's say you want to use more than one color. I like to use a little rule, I guess, and my rule is I start with a yard, and if I'm going to use 2 colors, then I'm going to divide 1 yard by 2, and I'll get a half a yard of one color and a half of a yard of the other color. Now let's try that rule again, and let's say I'm going to use 3 colors. Then I'll get a third, so 1 yard divided by 3, I'll get a third of a yard of one, a third of a yard of another, and a third of a yard for the third one. Of course, you could make each hand unique by using scraps of fabric. If you decide to use different scraps, then I would try to make sure that each scrap is at least 5 inches by 8 inches wide. There's many different types of batting that you can find out in the marketplace. The batting that you use for this quilt should be sturdy, as the quilt gets very heavy with all the applique hands, the buttons, and when you fill the pockets with treats. So this batting is a polyester. It's very lightweight. I put this piece here because I've quilted it a lot, and the more I quilt it, the sturdier this batting becomes. If I was only going to quilt it just every 5 or 6 inches, it wouldn't hold up very well on that Advent quilt. This next piece of batting is Warm and Natural. It's 100% cotton, and I recommend using this because it's a little bit sturdier than this polyester brand, and it's very easy to machine quilt.